Okay, so this next video lecture is about our module number 6. So this is entitled Income Tax for Corporations and Partnerships. Okay, so we will be discussing about the BIR Form 1702 and the account information form for our corporation and partnership, as well as the documentary requirements and the procedures. Okay, so for the BIR Form 1702, so this is also known as, by the way, for our BIR Form 1702, we will have 3 types of this. Okay, so we will have 1702 RT, which means that this is the annual income tax return for corporation, partnerships, and other non-individual taxpayer who is or which are subject only to regular income tax rate. That is RT, regular tax rate. Okay, so this form shall be filed by the corporation or partnership and other non-individual taxpayers who are only subject for regular income tax rate of 30%. So every corporation or partnership, no matter how they were organized or created, they may be joint stock companies, joint accounts, association, except of course for the foreign corporation who are not engaged in trade or business in the Philippines, and joint venture or consortium formed for the purpose of undertaking construction projects or engaging into petroleum, coal, geothermal, and other energy operations. So these are the exceptions. Okay, so those government-owned and controlled corporations, agencies, and instrumentalities shall also render a true and accurate income tax return in accordance with the provision of our tax code. So this return will be filed with or without payment on or before the 15th of the 4th month following the close of the taxpayer's taxable year, or on or before April 15. Okay, so that's for corporation and partnership who are subject to regular income tax rate. Now for the corporation and partnership and other individual or non-individual taxpayer who are exempt. So this form, BIR Form 1702EX, okay, exempt under the tax code, okay, will be used. So this return will be filed by the corporation, partnership, and other non-individual taxpayer who are exempt under the tax code. So as amended, those exempted in tax and other special laws with no other taxable income, such as but not limited to, these are the corporation and partnerships who are exempted and will be using this BIR Form EX. Okay, they are the foundations, cooperatives, charitable institutions, non-stock and non-profit educational institutions, and general professional partnerships and others. So we will have the discussion of this in the later part of this module. So this return shall be filed on or before the 15th day of April also, following the close of the taxpayer's taxable year. And the third BIR Form 1702 is MX, or meaning to say these are for the corporation, partnership, and other non-individual with mixed income, and they are subject to multiple income tax rate or with income subject to special or preferential rate. So this form will be used to file for their income tax return. Okay, so this return will be filed also on or before April 15th of the following close of the taxpayer's taxable year. Okay, so we have here these different forms. So we have the 1702 RT, or meaning these are this is the BIR form that will be used by the corporations, partnership, and other non-individual taxpayers who are subject to regular income tax of 30%. Okay, so in this form, it has here the necessary data that should be filled in. For example, the calendar fiscal year, is the return amended, short period return, their tax code, the taxpayer's TIN for the background information, their RDO code, registered name, address, date of incorporation, contact number, zip code, email address, method of deductions. Either they will be using itemized deduction or OSD of 40% of their gross income. Now in part 2, we have here the total tax payable. So here, item number 14 is from part 4, item 43 later on. So this is their tax due. Okay, so we will deduct any tax credits or payments from the previous period to get our net taxable or overpayment. Okay, and in the case where the entity have paid or filed late, so they will be charged of penalties, surcharges, interest, and compromise. Okay, which will be added to the net taxable or payable for the total amount to be paid or overpayment due to the BIR. So they also have here the signature or printed name of the officer who is authorized or treasurer, and the number of attachments, okay, that was included in this BIR form. Now in part 3, we have here the details of the payment. So whether they paid in bank, cash, check, and others. So it will include the number, the date, and the amount corresponding to the payment. Now in the second page, we have also here part 4. So this is the computation of our tax. So this is where we will get the tax due later on that will be filled into the first page, okay, a while ago. So here, they will include or fill in the sales receipts, revenues, less any sales returns to get their net sales. And then we will deduct the cost of sales to get to our gross income from operations. And we will add other taxable income not subject to final tax, okay, to get the taxable income. Okay, and any other deductions allowed. Okay, or OSD, depending on the choice of the entity or the corporation or the partnership to get the net taxable income. Okay, and then we will incorporate the applicable income tax rate. So in this case, more likely this is 30% because this is for regular tax rate. Okay, or corporations and partnerships who are subject to regular income tax rate of 30%. So we will be using 30% in this case. Okay, so that will be the tax due. And if there are any tax credits or payment in the previous year, so they can also deduct from the tax due. Okay, to get the net taxable, net tax payable or overpayment. Now in part 5, the tax relief availment. So this is for special allowable itemized deduction that they can avail if they are allowed to avail of these deductions to lessen or to be deducted from their income tax due. Okay, so that's their total tax relief availment. Now in page 3 of our 1702 RT, so we have here the schedule for the allowable itemized deduction. So this is where the entity should include or fill in the amounts corresponding to the items that they will claim as deductions, okay, and also as allowed under the tax law. Okay, and then in Schedule 2, we also have here the special allowable itemized deductions. So this is for the availment of special deductions if they are allowed. Okay, and in page 4, we have here the schedule for computation of the net operating loss carryover, meaning to say if in previous years the corporation or the partnership have incurred losses, so they can carry this forward, okay, and it can be deducted from their taxable or tax due, I mean, okay, if that is the case. And then another schedule also here is the computation of availment of operating loss carryover. So this is allowed. Okay. In Schedule 4, we have here the computation of minimum corporate income tax or MCIT. Okay, if they choose the 2%, okay, from their gross income instead of 30%, okay, against their net taxable income. Schedule 5 is the reconciliation of net income per books against their taxable income. Okay, so here they should attach the necessary documents that will serve as a proof, okay, of their, for example, deductions or expenses. Okay, so those are for our BIR 1702 RT, meaning those are for corporations and partnerships who are subject to regular income tax. So we go now to 1702 EX. So this is for corporation and partnership who are exempt under the tax code. Okay, so just like in the first BIR form, so it also has the same actually fields. Okay, so we have here the background information, total tax payable. Although they are exempted, still they have to compute, okay, to show their tax payable. Okay, and then part 3, details of payment. But if they are exempted, then I think that is leave as blank. Okay, page 2, computation of tax. So they also have to show their tax computation. So if you could notice right here in item number 40, tax rate is 0%. Okay, so they will not be paying any taxes. Okay, so actually the same fields in 1702 RT, but the difference lies in the income tax rate, because in this case they will be using 0%. Okay, and then the last BIR form is 1702 MX, meaning this is to be used by the corporation and partnership who are subject to mixed income with multiple income tax rate, or with income subject to special or preferential rates. Okay, so actually we have also the same fields as in the first two BIR forms. So first part is background information, part 2 total tax payments, part 3 is the details of the payments. Okay, in page 2 we have here the schedule. So basis of tax relief, if there are any, what are the income subject to exempt taxes, their special taxes, and special tax relief, and so on. Schedule 2 is computation of income tax per regime, okay, as filled in Schedule 1. Okay, so 0% of course for exempt, and then for special taxes, so whatever taxage will be subject the income to, so that will be used here. Okay, so Schedule 3 is the tax credits payment. Okay, in page 3, for example, of course, tax due is 0. For special and other regular taxes, so they will be using the appropriate income tax for this. Schedule 5, ordinary allowable itemized deduction, should also be filled in this part. And in Schedule 6, we have the special allowable itemized deductions. Okay, for Schedule 7, if they have net operating loss, which will be carried forward in this current taxable year. Okay, and then for page 4, so we have the computation of the net operating loss carryover, which will be used by the taxpayer if they are allowed, okay, as deductions later on in their tax due. Schedule 8, computation of net loss carryover. Okay, and Schedule 8 is the computation of any amount to be availed, okay, from the net loss operating or net operating loss carryover. And in Schedule 9, if they also choose MCIT or 2% of their gross income instead of 30%, just like in the regular tax as mentioned earlier. Okay, Schedule 4 is, Schedule 10 is for the reconciliation of our net income per books and against taxable income. So this is very important also to make sure that there is no income which were not declared and expenses are all valid and necessary and acceptable. Okay, so those are for our BIR forms, okay, which will be used by the corporation. So again, we have 3 different types of BIR forms. We have BIR form 1702RT, meaning this will be used by the corporation and partnership who are subject to regular income tax of 30%. Next is BIR form 1702EX. So this will be used by the corporation and partnership who are exempted from paying taxes. And number 3 is BIR form 1702 MX. So this will be used by the corporation and partnership who are having mixed income and subject to different income tax rates or special or preferential tax rates.